Starship Defense, or Starship Patrol in Europe, is from Q Games, who you probably know from the Pixel Junk series and not the Tomorrow Children. Now, when you hear the words tower defense, an image likely forms in your head of a landscape, a pathway or two for enemies to follow, and spots to place your units. In Starship Defense, they switch things up and your starship fleet is the target. So you equip your ships with weapons to blast incoming enemies who do follow a set path. To help differentiate the experience a little, Starship Defense sees defeated enemies dropping energy, which you need to build more weapons. Collecting the energy with the stylus is an easy yet effective way to keep you engaged in battle, rather than just holding down the fast forward button and letting everything play out at double speed like every other tower defense game in the world. Thanks to Dark Void Zero and Maestro, I'd sort of been conditioned to expect an hour, maybe 2 of gameplay in DSiWare games before they're done. But Starship Defense has 30 lengthy levels, and you're not going to see them all unless you get a perfect score each time. Gameplay is fairly deep as well. You start off each battle with the basic weapons, then as you clear waves of enemies, you receive power crystals. Those power crystals are used to unlock more weapons as well as to use SOS cards, which can give you a game-changing boost when you need it most. Power-ups for your units drop randomly in battle and can be given to the unit of your choice, and a nice little touch I enjoyed is the ability to angle your range of fire on units ever so slightly. By the time you reach the 10th level, science weapons become available to you. These are insanely powerful units that can blast away groups of enemies, but obviously they're quite expensive. Around this time, I really hit my groove with Starship Defense. I learned which units were the best against which enemies, and I was getting perfects regularly without feeling like the game was too easy. And even though the first 10 levels took a couple of hours, thanks to me replaying a few for more SOS cards and to get the perfects I missed, that's only a third of the game. There's 30 freaking levels in this thing. I think the developers realized that maybe some people would breeze through the early part of the game. Starship Defense is still challenging, don't worry. So if you're good enough, you can skip the teenage stage and go straight to the legal drinking age in America stages. There's a shipload of levels in Starship Defense, but if you want to speedrun, the option is there as well. Even with all my praise, I still have to put Starship Defense in A tier, albeit at the top of A tier. While it nails everything a tower defense game should be, there just wasn't that defining trait to push it over the edge. With Soul of Darkness, it perfectly copied a franchise I love. With Akapa's Trail, it was an insanely awesome surprise. Starship Defense lacked that something special, but it's still a high A tier game. Any negatives I have don't detract from its greatness. Sure, while it felt like a lot of the newness was gone after the first 10 or so levels, don't worry, they still introduced new enemies and hazards like solar flares and asteroids after that. There's 30 levels in this game. If this was another $5 game from another DSiWare developer, they probably would have stopped at 10 levels anyways. Ultimately, you should get Starship Defense if you're not completely burned out on tower defense games, because it nails everything you want from the genre. And even if you are burnt out on them, it might just reignite your passion.